Now, I can feel the internet rage from the title alone, so I'm gonna head you guys off and do a quick water test and show you guys what the levels are actually inside of my system. I've never done a water change in here, and I'm gonna show you guys how to do that and why I've never had to, but quick, I'm gonna do a water test so you guys can actually see what it is. This is my trusty little pH pen, which will tell me the pH of the system, and I'm gonna add that one on the little inlet. So that one is sitting there. It takes a minute or two for it to adjust. And here I have the rest of the water test. So I have little test tubes, and I'm gonna fill them up and show you guys what it's actually sitting at. Now, if you guys have never actually seen this before, this is an API freshwater testing kit, which basically is gonna tell me all the levels inside of the system. So they're pretty easy. You get it up to 5 mil, you get it to the 5 mil point. And then we're gonna test. So the first one is ammonia. So there's 2 bottles. So we're gonna let that sit for a minute and change color. Okay, so this one is a nitrite test, which is pretty simple. I'm gonna add 5 drops of nitrite. Now the first 2, the ammonia and the nitrite, if these are ever showing up in your system, you need to work on your filtration, because basically you should have pretty much nil of these ones. You can get away with very trace amounts of ammonia, but you really don't want to have very much of it. But pretty much you let them sit and then you compare it to the chart next to it. So the nitrite is at 0 ppm, since the color there is matching up. And the ammonia is, it's slightly between 1, just about trace, so there's very, very little of it, which is not a concern at all. So I'm quite happy with how they're sitting, and that's how they've been sitting for the last 5 years or so. They don't change ever, which is quite fun. So now I'm gonna do another test, and I'm gonna do the nitrate test. So the nitrate, bottle 1, I'm gonna add some of this. That's bottle 1. Okay, so this one is going to take a couple minutes or 30 seconds to a minute to actually get its color and tell me what the nitrate in this system is actually sitting on. But quick, I'll show you the pH level. Let me grab the pen, it's had it long enough. Okay, so this one is sitting on about 7.5, which is ideal. I don't want it anything different than that. Okay, so while this one is actually starting to change over, we're going to have a very quick word from our sponsors, which is me. Now, like I said, this video today is brought to you by me. And I have something very cool that's coming up. I have a Kickstarter which is launching today. Well, today when I put this video up, it might have been going for a couple of years when you guys see this video, but hopefully today I have it up. Now, what this is a VG10 knife, which means that the core is incredibly hard and the handle is an olive with purple epoxy inside of it. And basically what my Kickstarter is I want to get awesome knives and then make them up to fantastic handles. I have a crap ton of different handle choices, and basically the idea that I have is that I want to be able to get a knife, put a handle on it, and then people can customize the knife which suits them. Now, there's a hell of a lot more details in the Kickstarter if you guys are curious and want to see more about it, and I'll quit wasting your time and go back to the fish video now. Now, this has actually had long enough to set up, and you guys can actually see that against the nitrate, as it sits, it is pretty much in between 0 and 1, which is actually a little bit lower. I wish it was a bit higher, but I can never actually get it up because I am using every single part of this nitrate before it can actually do anything at all, which is kind of annoying because I want more of this stuff. But we need to understand what it actually is. Nitrate, which is in this little bottle, or what this bottle is detecting, is one of the main reasons that fish keepers change their water so often. I asked on the forums to find out how often people actually do it, and for goldfish tanks, they'll change them twice weekly, once weekly, or every 2 weeks, which kind of sounds really, really annoying and a pain in the ass to actually do. And we do it to stop this from getting too high. Now, I'm not saying don't test the system, don't stop throwing it out, because if this gets too high, the fish, my lovely little fish down here, as you can see, flying around, I've got about 100 something of them in there, in the 3 tanks that I've got here. If we don't get the nitrates out of the system, then you're going to have a bad time. The fish are pretty much going to die. So we need to make sure that this does not get too high. But like I said, I have never done a water change in this system, and there is a very, very good reason why. Now, my fish feed that I have here is a very high nutrient fish feed. It's designed for pretty much the optimal growth that you can actually get. It's packed full of pretty much good. It's not cheap algae flakes, which is a starvation diet. This is nutrient rich and designed for get fish to grow really, really well and really quick. So they might be a little bit camera shy since I'm sitting here, but wait for them come up. I've moved the little cage up. They're used to the cage being on top of it and me not hovering over the top watching them. So they're a little bit shy, but they will get that when I am not sitting here staring at them. But I'm going to show you guys what I am doing with the nitrates inside of this system, since I've never thrown any of them out and they get put to very, very good use. So if you guys can see down there, well, you probably can't see very well, but there is a water pump. So my water pump is going out there under the ground, coming up through that pipe, and then coming out there. Now, if you guys can actually see what's happening here, the water is going into this bed. So inside of this bed, I have gravel, and inside of the gravel, there is some tomatoes. Okay, now first we actually need to realize what's happening. Now, the water is going to all these beds behind me, and it's going to every single one of them, and there is a very good reason why. But first, we need to understand what the nitrate is. Now, the nitrate, which is getting removed, is nitrogen. And if you guys know much about nitrogen, it's basically one of the best fertilizers. It's the building blocks for pretty much everything inside of plant growth. You get it inside the soil, it comes from rainwater, it's what plants need to grow, and it's one of the main building blocks. And nitrate, which is getting thrown out all the time, is nitrogen. So I'm using it up inside of my system here. So it's going to these beds, which is growing fruit and veg, which I think is just fantastic. So you can see I have some tomatoes and they are starting to go. They're starting to grow really, really well, and they're starting to shoot off. And it's still very, very early in the system, but I'll show you what else is actually being used up with them. I have some broccoli here, which is just starting to go to seed since I pulled them out. I have some lettuce. So I've got some lettuce here, which is pretty much ready to harvest. So probably gonna have this one for lunch. So what I'm holding here has actually been pretty much solely grown from fish poop. Being solely grown from the nitrates that people are throwing out of their system, and it's growing quite well. It is beautifully nutritious. It's lettuce basically, and it has grown fast. This one I put in there probably 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it has grown to this size, and I'm going to take it in for lunch because it is damn tasty. But it's not just tomatoes and stuff that we can grow inside of it. I have everything growing. This one is my seeding tomato bed, so this is what I used to make a whole lot of sauce out. There's Romas, and you can see some of the small tomatoes are actually starting to form down here, which I think is fantastic. This one, no fish poop in that one, but I've got basil growing, and I have an absolute crap ton of mint. Mint is just growing insanely well. It's just insanely well how well this stuff grows. So down here I have some strawberries, and like I said, they are just growing insanely well. I love having tomatoes. I love having strawberries inside of this. And this guy has a bug growing inside of it, so I'm going to chop off part of it and keep the rest of it for later. But it just works insanely well. I'm not throwing out this water. This water gets recycled straight back into the tank, and all these rocks here pretty much do all the filtration that I need for the system. It's just a fantastic system, and I have never thrown out, I've never dumped any water in this side of the system because it's kind of a waste. The people that do this sort of bed and clean their fish water this way would just think it's insane if they're actually throwing out their aquaponic water, because it's just fantastic and so nutrient rich and everything. So next time you guys are actually doing your water changes, think about this. You are throwing away perfectly good plants. You are throwing away perfectly good growth, which is something you can actually eat. And it just works insanely well. Like I said, never done a water change. My nitrates are still a little bit too low. I kind of wish they were a little bit higher, but I've got so much growing out there that it just sucks it out the second it goes out of the system. And it just works. That's all there is that can really be said to it. Now, if you guys want to hate on me, go nuts. I don't really mind. I know this works. I know this works insanely well, and it might be a little bit of an introduction to aquaponics for you. This can be done on a much smaller scale. You don't need to have a massive fish tank, a massive beds and everything growing. You can have a little bin that's above your fish tank that the water circles through, and put some tomatoes and a grow light on top of that, or some lettuce and a grow light on top of that, and it will reduce the amount that you actually need to change your water. Now, I'm in no way, shape or form saying stop throwing out your water altogether, stop measuring it. If you're doing this, you need to measure what your actual water is. And even if you're not doing this, you should be measuring the nitrates to see when you actually need to be changing it. You shouldn't be doing it out of habit or because somebody said that. You should be checking your nitrate levels, and when they get too high, that's when you do the water change. Now, I hope you guys got something out of this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I love this system. I love how well it works. And if you want more information, I have some aquaponic videos in my playlist that you can go through, and there's a crap ton of information online about it. But I'm gonna go whack this one in my lunch now because it is lunchtime and it looks delicious. And I hope you guys got something out of this. Now, any questions below, let me know, and make sure to check out my Kickstarter, which is nothing fish related if you guys skipped through when I started waffling on about it before. And look forward to seeing you guys next time. So thanks for watching, and awesome.